Hey guys, so I just wanted to record a little bit while I'm painting. I think there's one thing I've come to realize is there's always an opportunity to get some content, if I'm just throwing paint on this guy. I am very messy right now. So what I'm doing on him right now is just throwing black everywhere. So we're gonna come back around and clean it all up again, obviously. And trust me, there's plenty of spots like under here that we need to get some blue, clean up here and everything. And then we're gonna mess it up later, And then we're gonna do the gold in a little bit. But for now, I just wanted to get all the paint on there. I've been treating him pretty roughly, the way I can toss him around. I don't have to put paint everywhere, like here between the crevices under his butt. I don't have to get paint there, but I will know that it's not painted, and so that will bother me. I will see it even if I'm not looking for it, and that's kind of one of those things that if you're the artist, you yourself will know what you did and didn't do, or you'll know those little secrets that you put in there that maybe somebody who's looking at your art won't know, and that's kind of like the little gem you want them to find. So I did already a lot of the black the other day, so now I'm just trying to do more of the black on the knees, on the knee joints, because this is all going to be the black carapace anyway. Okay. Let's see. Now, one thing I did find out, if you turn his ribs like this, you can see a lot more of the black carapace under here. You want to get those like white spots that didn't really just catch the paint well. Same on the belt. If you really look at the belt, it doesn't look like it caught a lot of the black the first time, so this is like the third coat I've put on it. You just want to make sure you don't over layer it too much so it doesn't start clumping up really badly. And then I think just by nature of how this model turns and stuff, I think I am getting some scrapes every now and then. It's okay if we're messy with the black though, because we can just come back and clean it up with blue later. And those are going to be brown. We have Morfang brown. Mornfang for that. So, let's see. All right. Let's take a look under his knees. Oh my God, did I just add paint to that by accident? Well, that is a huge mistake that I'll have to come back and clean up later on. That's important. You see guys, that's why it's very important you have proper brush control and you don't have your brush moving everywhere. Also would help if I never actually finished any of my models. Oh, that's on me. My mistake. Now, this may be a very unflattering pose for the Space Marine. My God, I am just getting paint everywhere I don't need to get it today. It's very messy. I hope I don't get copy striked for any of this music I'm listening to, but I just find music to be so relaxing in the background when you're painting. See, if you look at my brush here, I have one strand. I don't know if you guys can tell. One strand that's just like sticking out. And so that can be super annoying when you're painting. What I always end up doing, I do have a repair, like a brush sharpener thing, but if it's one strand like this, I go to the end and I just snap it out like that. Because that can actually spread a lot of paint that you don't want in little spots. And I'm not trying to get streak lines everywhere, although I am being very messy. But I'm not trying to get streak lines for the black everywhere all over the blue, because everything that we mess up, we do have to come eventually back and fix. So, which is a very important lesson if you really think about it. Eventually you will have to fix the mistakes that you make. Now it's good to have a lot of lighting, because lighting can help you see a lot of the gray that you have, the parts that maybe the paint's not catching. And then you can adjust kind of your grip or however you're dabbing on the paint, so you can get a little bit more to cover it. It's very easy to miss something that you're like, oh, I thought I covered everything, but then you come back and look at it and you're like, oh, well, there's a bunch of paint parts that I did not get paint on. And you know, if you don't feel like you'd ever have to do that, not every artist feels like they have to paint every single piece of a model, you know. A friend of mine once told me that you really just have to paint what people see. You know, don't have to paint everything, but I don't know. I've always just been that kind of person that, like, I'll know and it's gonna bother me. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to some gold. Like that. And eventually we're gonna have to throw black on this gun too. I was being very messy with a lot of my paints. I'm sure there are much better artists that will tell me how I'm doing everything wrong. But you know, it's honestly just about how you enjoy it, how a model looks amazing, you know, how it looks to you. I like my models, you know. When I make something that I think is really impressive, or I paint something that I'm like, I didn't know I could do this. I think to me that there's no better feeling in the world, honestly. I need a better system to keep my brushes, you know, in together. Let's see, we're gonna use some McFarlane blue. You wanna shake it up a little bit, get all that nice color in the bottom, start coming back around. Make sure you get a lot of that out of the, you see how it all piles up at the top there? It's a bit much, and you wanna kind of get it back in the pot. Just dab a little bit. Now you can, I sometimes do this, probably not as much as I should, but I sometimes do add water, obviously, to thin it out a bit. And you can come back in and just start touching up parts that you want to stay blue, obviously. You know, clean up where the black spilled over, clean up where a lot of the extra color spilled over. The only places I'm not gonna clean up is gonna be around the pauldrons and maybe around under the pauldrons here, because when we do the gold, and if I do too much cleaning here, there's a really high chance that I'm gonna do a lot of spillage anyway. So again, we don't wanna overwork ourselves, because it's very easy to burn out on a model, and you get tired always having to repaint the same spots over and over again. A big model like this does take some time, but it's not about speed, you know? It's just about enjoying the fact that we're here. I don't know if you guys can see right there. I actually spilled just a little bit of Mechanicum gray, a little bit more than I wanted. So we'll just clean that up right there. There we go. I think that looks good. I wanted to go for like an under piece, like a slit of metal under the eye, because I have seen that before. I have no idea where, because of all the amount of stuff that I watch, but I know I've seen it on a Space Marine before, and it might have been a Tech Priest more than a actual a Hellblaster, which is what this model is. But still, I think it's something cool, you know. In this, you know, in 40K, a lot of Space Marines end up customizing their armor. Now the Primaris haven't been doing that. It's more of a Firstborn thing, but you know, some of the chapters of Space Marines, well, probably not the Codex Astartes Ultramarines, right? You know, they're probably going to be like, hey, we only follow the rules. But still, some of the Ultramarines do actually have some individuality to them. Not all of them, but some of them. And obviously, like the Sons of Rust. I don't know if you guys have read any of the books from the Dawn of Fire novels, but yeah, the Sons of Rust, the Primaris Marines in that one, they are actually becoming true Sons of Rust, and in true Sons of Rust fashion, they are customizing their armor like the Firstborn Marines do, which is super badass. Now this part's tricky because there's actually not a lot of space here for us to get under this divot without spilling blue onto the belt again. But I'm already looking here and I can see that the black is already kind of shredded off on the top, so I'm gonna have to come back anyway. So if I make a mess there, it's not gonna be too bad, because either way, we're still gonna have to come back and add black again. Okay, we're just kind of squeezing this right under his belt there, and we're gonna be real careful with our brush control. We wanna make sure we don't flick up when we're under there. This motion, you just staying like a steady line. You wanna make sure you don't flick up, because then you're gonna get the paint the blue paint right on the back of the belt, and it'll actually, it shows through very easily. Just like that. Now, let's give it another angle so you guys can see. So I'm going actually at a down angle here, and I'm tilting up. Now, if you actually can see this, and I wouldn't show this to anybody, but I'm showing you guys, you can see the gray of where we can't reach with any paint. What we could consider doing is the exact opposite of what we're doing now. And when we come back later and with the black, we actually will go down and at an up angle so we can get the back of that belt and maybe all the way straight, but that's gonna take a lot of precision, all the way straight down to get the inside with black. Because again, everything under the actual plates is the black carapace. Let's clean up this cod piece right here. One thing I always love about painting like this, when you make a mess and you come back around and start cleaning it up, you know, it takes the pressure off of feeling like you have to do something perfect the first time. You know, obviously that's not realistic. It's hard. It's a hard thing to do. Let's kind of set this guy up at a better angle. We need more light around his carapace here. But yeah, it's a hard thing to do. I mean, you're not going to do it right the first time. Probably won't even do it right the third or fourth time you do it. But you know what? If you keep trying, which means you come back later and you try to fix it, eventually you'll get it right. See, under here, you can actually see a lot of where I didn't get paint. And we're gonna have to get the bigger brush and try to get some under there. Let's tilt him just a little bit and get some more light on that. And we want to follow just along the line right there. And you want to come to the angle here and you want to just caress it, just slowly. Now it's times like this where a lot of things can go wrong, where you're like just trying to be as gentle as you can and you end up spilling over with paint. But if that happens, again, you know, it's just teaching brush control at some point where you're just like, you know what, next time I try to paint a smooth edge line like that or a tight corner like that, I'll get a better angle, I'll tilt it, you know. A lot of painting is not about speed, you know, it's about really just enjoying it, enjoying the experience, seeing how it comes out in the end. But it's really not a rush. You shouldn't feel like you're rushing. Although if you do have a tournament coming up, you probably are rushing to paint your army so you can get those points. But still, you wanna enjoy the hobby. When you do enough rushing in day-to-day life, it's okay to just take things down a second, just kind of take a deep breath and just enjoy whatever it is you're doing in the moment. It's probably the thing that I always have a habit of not doing. I don't know if I enjoy enough of the moment. But when you start cleaning up that area that you saw, like it's some, you know, damage or whatever, or you saw some spillage, you eventually look at it and you go, wow, I did that. And you're so impressed. At least me, I'm impressed with myself because I'm not a very graceful person. I'm actually pretty clumsy. So stuff like this is, I give myself props on that. And I mean, if you don't think that you're able to do this and you realize that you are when you're halfway through it, take a second and give yourself those props. You know, say, hey, I did that. I have a creative side to me. And because it's a beautiful thing and it's important we foster our creative sides. Okay. Okay. Now, one thing that's actually a good trick is not feeling like you have to do sections by sections, like staying with the same color. You know, if you get bored and you're like, hey, I'm getting tired of using McFarlane blue. I'm getting tired of painting the legs. I'm getting tired of painting the armor, blah, 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 blah. You can always just take a second. Like me, I'm getting bored of painting the blue right now. So, you know, again, the hobby, it's not supposed to feel like it's a chore. It's supposed to feel like you're having fun, you're enjoying it. And so I'm gonna stop painting that. I'm gonna try to do some gold now. We're gonna look for our Balthazar gold. I'm gonna have to move you, homie. Excuse me. Now, this is an old pot I have that I use for detailing, and it's not, or for just extra splatter. That's not gonna work. Excuse me. Let me see. So we are gonna use Gehenna's gold, and we are gonna use Rumic later on, but not now. For now, we need Balthazar. So this one might work. But for some reason, and I don't know if this is something anyone else has experienced, but when I buy Balthazar's gold, you will get some that does have this metallic color to it, but then you get some that are like super red. You know, and it's the same pot. There's nothing different on it, but it's just the colors came out different. You want to shake those up again. Now, if you can hear in the red one, I actually have a lot more water in this one, and I don't know, that might be why it's more gold. Maybe I have more water in this one. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll open them both up and we'll check. So this one's supposed to have like a more rich kind of brass color. But then if you open my other pot for some reason, well, I guess it does kind of have it, but it just looks rusty, you know? And it just looks red. So red. Not sure where the red's coming from, but we're not going to use both pots. I'll just use one. Probably use this one. We're just gonna grab a little bit of that. Now it's watery, so you wanna make sure you don't grab too much, because if you grab too much, it's gonna get everywhere you don't want it to go. I'm gonna lay him flat, because I wanna be able to see the angle of his chest. One thing about having cats is their hair ends up literally everywhere. I don't know why. They're not even allowed in this room that I'm in, and they're still ending everywhere. And you wanna just, you know, just start putting it on there. We're gonna use the big brush for the main pieces, the big parts. And you wanna do side to side because of the ridges, and so it really gets in all the crevices there. Don't worry about spilling over, because it's gonna happen no matter what. And don't worry about not painting enough. They'll be like, hey, I didn't feel comfortable going over this edge line here. Well, that's okay. We can get a smaller brush and come back and do it later. It's just about trying to get as much as we can now, and then coming back again and doing it all again. You want to get right in there. You want to follow the corners of each one of the Aquila. Funny little tidbit here. The Aquila is not something every Space Marine chapter was allowed to carry on their chest. During the original Great Crusade, only the Emperor's children were allowed to do that, which is ironic because they're one of the biggest traitors. Betrayed the Imperium for literally no reason. Although obviously they all have their reasons or whatever, but not a good reason in my opinion. But yeah, the favored son that nobody really expected. Apparently Horus did not think that he'd be able to bring the Emperor's children to his side, or Fulgrim. But the layer blade really did corrupt him and made it so much easier. Even Titsnitch didn't think that he would go for it. Do this at a little bit of an angle here. You want to get the side of the jaw here for this skeleton. And again, just a really light coat in the first coat, because we're going to come back again and hit it with more Balthazar gold until we have a full coat all over. But yeah, a lot of Space Marine chapters were not didn't have the honor of carrying the Emperor's symbol on it, on their chests. It was not until the heresy that the loyalists began doing it, out of respect, obviously. Out of loyalty. Because they weren't filthy heretics. Dirty traitors. Let's see. Let's get a little bit more there. I'm going to take some risks here by trying to do some of the corners here with this bigger brush. The only thing about a bigger brush is since it holds a lot more paint, and this is a very watery paint, you may get that spillage like we talked about, where it's going to drip out and it's going to like get on the blue, or you may lose control of where you're trying to put it. And that's okay if it happens. We're going to come back anyway, but Again, you want to make sure you're not making a lot of work for yourself to keep repainting the same place over and over again. Let's see. Just getting the tips of this with the eagle wing. Okay, I need to turn him toward me, excuse me. All right, now we're gonna look from the top angle. We're gonna go through here, following along the tips of the wing. May need to pull apart the shoulders just a little bit so I can get a little bit more of the edge. Now, one trick I did see a long time ago on painting tutorials, which I thought was super cool, is doing like a white along the tips of the wing and then doing like the rumored gold, obviously, but it adds a really nice shimmer effect. I think I might have too much on that brush there. Let's dial that down before we go in there. One helpful way to not overspill when you're following the top line is painting down, painting at a down angle. You know, so that way you're staying, most of the paint is staying on the Aquila symbol that you're trying to get it on anyway, so it helps. This is typically where I always mess up, right where the Aquila meets the neckline here, because it's such a thin piece. Let's see, if I follow this angle, maybe I'll be able to get exactly the results I want. And again, we're gonna need a lot of layers, because I don't know if you can tell, but we're not getting through the blue yet. And there is a little bit of blue spillage on all this, so we need to make sure that we come back with another layer of the gold to really just try to cover as much of the blue as possible. Start again right here from the neckline. Let's get the top of the skull there. Let's come through here with another coat, right? Just like that, just going down. This time we can be spongy with it because it's gonna dry out nicely anyway. And then you can come back around. If you're like, oh, I don't know if I don't trust the sponge, come back through here and just smooth it out. Just smooth it out from the sides. There we go. Now, I don't know if you guys can tell, there is some slight spillage right at the corners right there and right inside the arch of the skull, right above the skull. And that's okay. Like I said, there's always a little bit of mess, and we'll come back around and clean it up again. Now, we've done enough gold here that I think we need to let this dry. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna switch it up. We're gonna take one of the pauldrons, and we're only gonna do one today because I think I'm getting a little tired. I'm just gonna get a little bit of paint on one of the pauldrons. Now, the pauldrons, you are gonna have to move your model a little bit. You can do the L right here with the fat side of your brush, and you wanna come up here just like that. Now, I always spill over, if I'm being honest. I always do on the pauldrons, and that's okay. Cleaning the pauldrons up is so easy because you just come in with a bigger brush and you just go along the edge, the corner edge, and you just make sure you don't spill anymore. But when it comes to painting the outside of the pauldron, I always fuck it up, so that's just me. And they're gonna come down like this, just the back of the brush. And that, again, if you're just catching the corner and you're getting a little bit of spillage, that's fine. Obviously, if you're not hitting the center of the pauldron, nothing absurd, but you're just getting a little bit of gold inside, that's fine. We can always come back and clean it up. Let's just put some more gold on there, stand them up, and we're gonna follow the edge line again. Tilt his arm. Okay, so we got one coat on there on the pauldron. It's gonna need a lot of coats. Now, a lot of people paint, I don't know if they paint the other side. Some people do, some people don't. But again, in my practice, I like to do that. So I'm gonna be kind of going under here. We're gonna be careful not to squish the Aquila against what we're holding. We're gonna have to hold the model like this and just come through here and just get a coat right under there. There we go. So we got, oh, I put my thumb right on that. Oh, it's okay. Looks like it's kind of dry actually already. So we got a little bit of the gold on there, and I think overall he's really taking some shape now. He's really taking some form. Make sure your fingers are dry when you're touching your models. You want to make sure you're not spreading paint everywhere. Thankfully for me, again, this is another reason why we want to use this dry paint or this really thin watery paint, because if it's wet, it dries so much easier and you're not getting a lot of spillage. Now, obviously, we'll have to come back and do a lot of cleanup work. I do need to get some paint inside the inside of the shoulders, but I think for, you know, he's coming together. You know, a lot of it's coming together. It's looking really good. But we'll pick it up again next time, guys. Just remember, anything you mess up, you can always come back and fix. And take your time. Thanks. Catch you in the next one.